serve number
Recording in
plates,
progress.
weighbridge facility, manufacture of microdots, supply of microdots and microdot fitment centers. To require a provincial department responsible for transport or local authority to register a driving license testing center before operating as a driving license testing center. To further provide for the appointment of inspectorate of manufacturers, building, bodybuilders, importers, including inspectorates of number plates, microdots, and weighbridge facilities. To provide for the surrender of a driving license by a holder of a driving license and the reissuing of a different category of a license on request to the Chief Executive Officer. To prohibit the willful or negligent issuing of a learner's license or authorizing the issue of a learner's license, endorsing or failure to endorse a learner's license, or to produce, print, or manufacture any document similar to a learner's license, contrary to Chapter 4 of the National Road Traffic Act. To prohibit the use of an authorized aid during a test for a learner's license or a driving license test, and the disqualification thereof, or therefore. To provide for the registration and grading of driving school instructors, to provide for the registration and grading of driving schools, to further prohibit and reduce the limit of alcohol in a specimen of blood taken from any part of the body, and to provide for matters connected therewith. So, Chair, depending on the outcome of members' input, this long title might change, or either by deletion of some of these aspects or by addition. Chair, will see here, as I read it out, there was no reference in the long title to the new proposed provisional driving license. That might have been an oversight from the department side. But again, if the committee does not agree to that, then it not being here is not an issue. If the committee does agree to it, it would have to be added going forward. So, Chair, that is the long title. Just for members to consider the long title, if they have any additions that they would like to make here, then we can just note that so that we make sure that any amendments to the long title are also included in the A list.
I am checking the hands of the members from time to time, Advocate. And I will suggest to the members that should they have anything to add here, they will indicate, or there is a hand from Honorable McDonald. You can go ahead, sir.
Chairperson, thank you very much. Thank you, Advocate Nel. Chairperson, I was going to make a suggestion that on the long title, let's go through the long title might change as we go ahead, and as Advocate Nel has already alluded to. So we might want to add some things or remove things, but can we come back to the long title right at the end, or after we've added all the things or removed all the relevant parts that we don't agree as we go forward, Chairperson?
It shall be influenced by the engagements as we move forward. That's what you are saying.
I'm 100% with that, Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Advocate, can we move?
Thank you, Chairperson. Then let me just show members as we carry on. The first clause of the bill on page 3 of the bill speaks to the amendments of definitions. So there will be some amendments of definitions that are already contained in the Act. There will also be insertion of definitions that were not in the Act. So it will indicate where there's an insertion or substitution or an addition. So, Chair, the first one that we are looking at is the amendment to the definition of ambulance. So the old definition on this side really just looks at the conveyance of sick or injured persons to or from a place for medical treatment and which is registered as an ambulance. The new proposed definition expands on this. The new definition means a motor vehicle that is A, appropriately equipped, designed, or adapted solely for the purpose of providing emergency care and conveyance of patients. B, owned by an emergency medical service as contemplated in the Emergency Medical Service Regulations of 2016 as amended. And C, registered as an ambulance in terms of this Act. So, Chair, we might consider whether or not the members of the subcommittee would seek to make some input here, especially regarding the adaptation of vehicles for use of ambulance based on some of the views that they've come across in the conversion of ambulances. So, Chair, I think I will just pause here for some input on the definition, new definition of ambulances.
I don't see any member. Okay, Honorable McDonald. Go ahead, sir.
Apologies, Chairperson, as my gadget was not complying. But anyway, Chairperson, on that issue, Chairperson, I was wondering, there was a lot of vehicles that were illegally homologated to be adapted to be ambulances. If we could maybe put something in there, the good advocate will know how to word it properly, that those vehicles cannot be homologated vehicles, so that it's one model that's been changed into an ambulance, because those were some of the issues that were raised in the subcommittee, and there's a lot of these illegal or unfit ambulances that are registered as ambulances that are being used to transport patients, and people are dying on a daily basis in these illegal vehicles, Chairperson.
Advocate.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. Can you try and conjure up something in that regard?
Chair, I think we'll take guidance here from the parliamentary legal advisor as well as the state law advisors. I just thought I would point out here the adaptation just to refresh or remind members of the discussions in the subcommittee. It might be best addressed in a clause, or one may need to possibly just add here legal adaptations or legally so adapted. It depends on what the legal advisors would say there, just so that we cover some of the concerns to ensure that if it is a converted vehicle, that it was done so through an authorized MIB and complies with all the required safety specifications. But that might also actually be covered within the Emergency Medical Service Regulation of 2016. I'm just not sure on the content of that regulation.
Honorable Mabena.
No, thanks, Chair. I think the issue has been covered by the good advocate. You'll remember there was an issue which was extensively canvassed by Honorable Hunsinger in terms of the panel vans which were illegally converted into ambulances, and many of them have been the subject of an inquiry which also included Toyota and all of those other issues. And I believe those are some of the issues which are being dealt with by the subcommittee. But as the advocate has said, that either is covered by the legislation that she has quoted, or further it can be subjected to a clause as we go along. So I will lower my hand. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Mabena. Advocate, can we move forward?
Thank you, Chairperson. Our next consideration is the insertion of a definition after authorized officer. So, Chair, this new definition will come in between the authorized officer and breakdown vehicle right here. The new definition inserted is bodybuilder. And Chair, this is not the bodybuilding that I do. This is another type of bodybuilding. The bodybuilder in this instance means any person who builds and fits new bodies on chassis or chassis cabs or modifies motor vehicles.
Oh, okay.
So, Chair, if I'm sure that one is short and sweet. It's a short definition of what it is, but just to check with members if they would be happy with the insertion and the definition thereof, Chair.
Members are raising their hands. Let me check. Honorable Pena, followed by Honorable McDonald.
No, as towards the Chairperson, I think as in with subsection A, subsection 1A, 1AA, which also speaks about an authorized person. Can't we also maybe in terms of the definition, because if we say a bodybuilder, it also just refers to any person. It doesn't put any conditions in terms of that person has to be a qualified someone that does that. Because if we were to avoid the situation of those tricycles and bicycles, that can be done by that. So perhaps if we can maybe a qualified or I don't know. I think if you look at subsection A, subsection 1B speaks about an authorized officer. Can we maybe put some conditions here? Just a suggestion. Thank you.
Okay, Honorable McDonald.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thanks once again. I'm sorry, Chairperson, that I'm raising my hand on every issue, but this is part of that subcommittee things, Chairperson. I'm worried about the wording there of used components or used parts. Can we not get maybe clarity on that we remove that part used? Because, Chairperson, I'm worried that they use an old 19-foot sack part of a E20 and then they put it on top of a new chassis and then put people in a, Chairperson. I'm just worried, Chairperson. The used part concerns me a bit. Thank you, Chairperson.
Okay. And fits new bodies and chassis or chassis cabs or modified. Advocate, there are two issues raised there. The first one is that Honorable Mapena is saying the person should be qualified to do that. And I'm sure you have heard what Honorable McDonald is saying. Advocate?
Chair, yes, Mr. McDonald just skipped to looking at the definition in builder. So you went from bodybuilder to builder in his reference to used components. I have made the note in my notes, and I'm sure that the legal advisors have also made notes to see if there's a possibility that that could be amended. But Chair, just going into that, we will see that the Act used to make reference also to any person in their reference, but we did see in some of the comments that further on down in the sections of the bill, there was notes by some of the submissions that a reference to any person does open it up and make it wide. One could consider changing this to a person so authorized, or however the legal jargon is, but the drafters will have to just give input there on what is considered appropriate for legal drafting, or whether or not based on the legal drafting it is advised to use any person. But the comments from members, I've made notes of that. Chair, I think if we do jump to builder, here it's also important to note that they've removed reference in the old definition of builder to or modifies motor vehicles using new or used components. It seems almost that it's contradictory if they do say here it's a person who manufactures or assembles motor vehicles in whole or in part from used components. So I think it was a duplication, which is probably why the department suggested that they remove the second reference to modifies motor vehicles using new or used components. But Chair, this could be that the builder creates a brand new vehicle, either from new parts or used parts. And in the past, the builder would then also have been allowed to make amendments to vehicles such as the MIBs in the discussions that came up. But I've noted it from my side, we might just need to get some input there from the department as well as the drafters on reference to any person. If we can clarify that from the start, then we can make sure that we include it throughout all other references in the document to any person might need that amendment. So Chair, then if Chair's happy just to, I don't know if Chair wants to find out from the department or the legal advisors at this point in time, or if Chair would like me to carry on.
Let's hear the legal gurus and the department. Yes, Advocate Mangcu, what has happened? Is it load shedding?
Chairperson, no, it's the state law advisor, Mr. Quetta. That's him talking. Thank you.
Oh, Mr. Quetta.
Sir.
Yes, sir.
I think the way qualified or appropriate, the way qualified person and the appropriate move forward.
Advocate Quetta. Advocate Quetta.
Yes, sir.
I think you are not very clear. Maybe it's your network. Can you sort your network properly so that we can record you properly? Yeah, sure.
Try, sir.
Yeah, okay, please try it. That was the state law advisor. Am I correct, Advocate Nel?
Yes, Chair, that was Advocate Quetta, state law advisor.
And then let's hear Pumelele, parliamentary advisor.
Good evening, members.
Online now, okay.
Thanks, Valerie. Good evening, members and chairperson and everybody on the platform. I'm also having problems with the network, chairperson, so I'm trying everything possible to keep connected. I suggest, chairperson, on this one, before we can venture the answers, maybe we will need to talk it through. As Advocate Nel pointed out, and just see what would be best in terms of ensuring whatever members have raised in both these definitions is covered. So we need to find one another between the department and what is currently standing in the other provisions. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Advocate, is that the view? Advocate Mangcu.
I can go with that suggestion, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and that will also cover Mr. Quetta. Thank you very much. Let's proceed, Advocate.
Thank you, Chairperson. The next definition is an insertion of driving license and after driving license testing center of the definition of driving school. So Chair, I just want to, here we go. So it will be just before we get to the E's in the bill. So the driving school definition will be inserted right over here. Chair, the proposed definition of a driving school is as follows. Driving school means any person who has been registered in terms of this act to conduct or offer instruction or training in the operation of motor vehicles in preparation of an applicant for examination to obtain a learner's license, provisional driving license or professional driving permit in terms of this act. Chair, then I see they've added an additional definition here, which they should just have separated the ECE. So I'm just going to pause with the driving school before I go to the ECE regulation, Chair.
Members, let's maybe agree that I will see if members have anything to raise. I will see by hands. I am checking that from time to time. If I don't see any hands, it means members do not have anything to say. Can we agree, honorable members?
I'm agreeable, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. If you have anything to say on this one, you'll raise a hand. If there's nothing, I don't see a hand, I'll say advocate should continue. Okay, advocate, there is no hand here. It means you can continue.
Thank you, Chair. Then just to note here, if we do then also include this definition of ECE, our legal drafters may just need to make a note in the A list that it should be separate from this caption here. But it does say the following definition, so it's covering both of those. On ECE regulations, Chair, the definition means the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe regulations. So that one is inserted there. Chair, then the next definitions we are looking at will follow edge of the roadway. So it will be inserted here just before examiner for driving licenses. So the following definitions are added. The embosser of number plates means any person who is registered to emboss an allocated license number or a motor trade number of a motor vehicle on a blank number plate for the purpose of selling such number plate. Then, Chair, just going into emergency services. Emergency services means emergency medical services provided by an organ of state or private body, disaster management services, fire and emergency services, traffic officers, traffic warden, members of the South African Police Services, Metropolitan Police Department, Municipal Police Department, members of the South African National Defence Force, or the National Department of Health. Chair, then let me just do emergency vehicle as well, and then we can try and deal with those three in one go. Emergency vehicle means a firefighting vehicle, firefighting response vehicle, rescue vehicle, ambulance, emergency medical response vehicle, a vehicle driven by a traffic officer in the execution of his or her duties, a vehicle driven by a member of the South African Police Service in the execution of his or her duties, or a vehicle driven by a member of a Metropolitan Police Department or Municipal Police Service in the execution of his or her duties. Both are defined in the South African Police Service Act 1995, and a vehicle driven by a person engaged in civil protection as contemplated in the Disaster Management Act. Chair, I'm just going to pause here. There were some indications and suggestions in some of the submissions that the definitions contained here in the bill differ from some definitions that are contained in regulations that go with the bill. And the department also indicated in their responses to some of these that one of the definitions will be removed. I think it would be apt for the department then also just to indicate for members or whether they intend that or would propose that deletion of a specific definition be in the regulations, or whether it then has to come from the Act. But Chair, I'm sure we can get members' views on that as well, whether they believe that the definitions are better suited here to make sure that it's contained in the Act, even though noting that some of the definitions may change from time to time. And if it is in the regulations, it is a shorter process to do so, Chair. So, Chair, I'm just going to take a breather here under E, because I did see some hands raised.
Yes, yes. Thank you very much, Advocate. Honorable Member Lisa Mangcu.
Chair, good evening, and good evening to everybody. You will not see my face today. Thank you to ESCOM, Chair. Not only did I arrive late, I arrived that there is no power. So, bit uncomfortable. Chair, I think Advocate has covered me in her explanation, because I also had observed some notes suggesting exactly what Advocate was saying. My view and proposition is that let's have the the definition amplified or more, or rather in the main act or in the act than in the regulation. So my proposal is that let us correct it in the legislation and not in the regulations. The issue is that if it's in regulations, it can just be changed quickly with people not noticing that it has changed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member Mangcu. Honorable Member Ketamabala Stole, followed by Honorable Member McDonald. Unmute yourself, Jobe. Jobe, unmute yourself. Whilst he's looking for the unmute button, let me hear Honorable McDonald.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Advocate Nel, once again. Chairperson, I just want some clarity. I must be missing something, or I'm confused, or something which is not uncommon. Why is the number plate thing, the embossing of number plates into that part where it says on the edge of the roadway? If she can maybe, or what is that wording there? I don't have it in front of me because I've only got my small gadget here in front of me, and because of no electricity. In that section, because why is the embosser of number plates put in there by the edge of the roadway? Can I get some? I don't understand. Why is the embosser of number plates? It says the edge of the runway means the boundary between the roadway and the shoulder, which is indicated by an appropriate road traffic sign or the absence of such. And then now they want to insert after that the following definition of the edge of the roadway, the embosser of number plates. I don't understand why the embosser of number plates must be by the definition of the edge of the roadway. Sorry, Chairperson, if I can just get some clarity there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jobe, are you back? Okay. Advocate, and the department will come in if they have something to say.
Chair, just to indicate to Mr. McDonald, this is a definition that comes off the edge of the roadway. So it's not linked to the definition of edge of the roadway. It just means that in terms of alphabetical order, that embosser will follow edge.
Okay, I'm covered. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. So we do agree with Honorable Mangcu that the definitions must be contained in the legislation. Are we agreeable, members? Any different view from that one of Honorable Mangcu? Okay. Honorable McDonald?
Chairperson, I agree with Honorable Manu, Chairperson. I agree with his submission.
And there's no different view. Thank you very much for that. Advocate, okay, let me hear from the department.
Thanks, Chairperson. We've got no issue with that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Advocate, let's forge ahead. As Honorable McDonald is lowering his hand, I know he has forgotten. Thank you very much. Let's go, Advocate.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chair, now we will see here comes an insertion after the examiner of a definition for firefighting response vehicle. Now, Chair, we might just need to get clarity here from the department whether or not this new definition seeks to actually remove the old definition. Because the definition that is in the Act is the firefighting vehicle means a motor vehicle designed or adapted solely or mainly for fighting fires and which is registered as a firefighting vehicle. Whereas the proposed insertion of definition is a firefighting response vehicle, means a vehicle operated by a person rendering a service as defined in Section 1 of the Fire Brigade Service Act of 1987. So it might be that this is two different types of vehicles operated by the firefighters. We just need to have clarity, whether or not they want to see this differentiation between a response vehicle versus an outright firefighting vehicle. That one was, I just thought that we might need clarity before. Thank you,
Advocate Mangcu.
Chairperson, it's an insertion that we are proposing, so is that a difference? It's an insertion that we are proposing. Thank you.
Let's make us understand, Advocate Mangcu. Is it replacing the old one, or what is happening?
Okay. Let's look at perhaps what the definition there of firefighting vehicle, which is currently in the Act as read by Advocate Nel. It says a motor vehicle designed or adapted solely or mainly for firefighting and which is registered as a firefighting vehicle. Right? Yes. And then the distinction between that and this one is what we're proposing. The insertion is firefighting response vehicle means a vehicle operated by a person rendering a service as defined in Section 1 of the Fire Brigade Services Act, number 99 of 87. Thank you.
McDonald?
Chairperson, thank you. Chairperson, while I lower my hand, before I forget again, and Chairperson, can we get a little bit of an explanation on that Act of 1987? Because I'm a bit concerned of old acts that come out of the apartheid era. Can we just maybe get what they refer to in that Act, please, Chairperson?
Advocate, are you able to assist us?
Chair, I would need to open another screen, and my computer's running on several screens at the moment. But Chair, I can try and assist in this as I would understand it. I just was hoping that there would be a bit more clarity there from the department. But as I would understand it, there may be a need to have both of these in here, because the MIBs and the bodybuilders, in terms of the Act, may be allowed or permitted to convert vehicles for purposes of being a firefighting vehicle. Whereas the new definition would then also cover, in terms of our emergency service definitions that we're adding, then to say that the response vehicle is a vehicle operated by a person rendering a service as defined. So that would be by the firefighters operating it. Similar to how, for example, we had the emergency vehicle here, and members will see, let me just do my screen share, make sure members are looking at the same thing as I am. Under emergency vehicle, the department did refer to the old firefighting vehicle here, but they also add the new reference here, firefighting response vehicle. That is how I would understand it, that there was a need just to bring this in so that we make sure that the emergency service operations of these vehicles are also covered, as well as when it comes to manufacturing or building of these vehicles. So I thought that just to help members understand that, but to pull up this Act is going to be a bit difficult for me at this point in time, Chair.
Okay, let's live with that. Honorable members, are we fine? Can we move to incident? If there is an honorable member who's not fine, I'll see a hand. If I don't see a hand, as we have agreed, it means we are okay to move.
We're fine, Chairperson. I'll read the other Act, and if there's anything, I'll come back, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are fine to move. I will only take hands if members have an issue, then I will stop. If I don't see hands, it means members are fine to go, as we have agreed. Advocate?
Thank you, Chair.
Are we dealing with incident now?
Yes, Chair, that is our next definition. It's an insertion. It will come after importer. So, Chair, the proposed definition of incident. Incident means an extraordinary condition or event which results in a reduction in road capacity or creates a hazard for road users for a sustained period of time, which includes a minor accident, shoulder or lane obstruction, rail or aviation accident, leakage, or spilled load. So, Chair, that would also then assist in where there's reference for the emergency vehicles that are responding to incidents, which is why I would assume that the department brought this definition in here.
Let's move. Advocate, I don't see any hand.
Thank you, Chair. Then we have another few new definitions that are being requested for insertion here. So this will come after the inspector of licenses. So, Chair, this will also be linked with all those new clauses that we have further down in the bill. So the Inspectorate of Driving License Testing Centers means a person, an authority, or an organization appointed in terms of Section 11. Then the Inspectorate of Driving Schools means a person, authority, or an organization appointed as such in terms of Section 28G. The Inspectorate of Manufacturers, bodybuilders, and importers means a person, an authority, or an organization appointed as such in terms of Section 7. And an inspectorate of testing stations means any person, authority, or organization appointed in terms of Section 41. So, Chair, this really just refers the reader to the specific sections that indicate how these people are appointed, by who they are appointed. It does list some of their powers, as well as what would disqualify them from being appointed. And then obviously it will cross-reference the reader wherever there is testing stations and where there's an issue about a grading or registration of a testing station, and then how, for example, an inspector of such a testing station will come into play. So, Chair, those are those 4 definitions. The next one would be instructor.
Advocate, you can forge ahead. Members are still fine. I can see no hand.
Thank you, Chair. Here then there's going to be a change or substitution of the old definition of instructor. So I'm just moving the old one up a little bit. Okay, here we go. Chair, the old definition of instructor had a little bit more meat to its bones. It didn't just refer to the section that deals with it. There was a concern raised in the submissions, I think it was also by Ms. Swanepoel, that there may be a need to expand either in the definition here or in the actual section 28B or the new 28B that is proposed, so that there's a bit more clarity given to who an instructor is. Chair, the proposed amendment would read, instructor means any person registered and graded as an instructor in terms of section 28B. So, Chair, I don't know if members want to give input here. It might be similar to the previous ones, whether or not they are comfortable with the definitions then rather being expanded in the specific section that deals with it, or whether they would like to see a definition similar to the way it was in the Act before.
Chair, thank you. Thank you very much. I think what would help, I don't know how easy it could be with advocate to know what that section is being referred to. It says person appointed in terms of section, I think it's 21B, because I don't know what that section is saying. If we agree to this now, we get there, the section is taking us in a different direction. We might find ourselves going forward and backwards. Because from the top of my head, the preference would be to get the broadest possible definition, unless we can be explained to as to why it needs to be narrowed.
Advocate?
She's trying to get to
Chair,
this one.
Chair, I'm just flighting the amendments that are on page 19 of the bill. I'm just going to quickly go to, yeah, you see, that is what happens when I'm trying to go too quickly.
Okay, we did not say you must go too quickly.
That's the old Act, Chairperson, the old Act in a computer that wants to be difficult with me. But as I go through this, Chair, I'll get to 28 eventually. There was also some input by Ms. Swanepoel on that section 28B, that there needs to be an expansion, because it really also just say here that a person shall not be registered to act as an instructor if he or she has been convicted of an offense listed in Schedules 1 or 2 of the Criminal Procedure Act, has been convicted of or has paid an admission of guilt fine for driving a motor vehicle while under the influence of intoxicating liquor or drug having a narcotic effect. And there's also a substitution here to a person referred to in subsection 1 and 1A shall only be registered as instructor in respect of a class of motor vehicle which he or she is licensed to drive, and the Chief Executive Officer shall have satisfied that an applicant referred to in section 28A complies with subsections 1, 1A and 2, register and grade such applicant in the prescribed manner. So Chair, this is instructor that is linked to or serves as a driving school instructor, as I understand it from the reading. But there was some indication by Ms. Swanepoel, and let me just see if technology is going to assist me or fail me here.
This is the level of 5 IR, Chairperson, while you are still on 4 IR.
So, Chair, members will see what Ms. Swanepoel said. This is per the slides of Annexure A that the department presented. The definition of instructor does not define who an instructor is. Section 28B does not indicate any criteria of an instructor. And then she lists the current definition that is in the Act that I indicated has a little bit more meat on its bones and doesn't just refer you back to the clause. So she refers back to this one.
It's 19 hours.
Yeah, it's good. It's 19 hours. Chair, if I may now, that and the department I see they say accepted, but what is in front of us doesn't seem to insert what the department has accepted, if my reading is well.
You are reading well, Honorable Mangcu.
Okay.
Never sat in such a dark place in my life in a long time.
Thank you very much. I think the member is saying we should move along with what the department has accepted. Am I getting you correct, Honorable Member?
Yes, Chairperson.
And you have been seconded by Honorable Lawrence McDonald. Any other member who has any different view on this matter? None. Thank you very much, Advocate. I think that's the stance of the committee. Can we move?
Yes, Chairperson. I'm just reviving my poor old Act.
Yes, Advocate. Yes, Honorable. Mondis, we have seen you are part of the meeting today. We have seen that you are experiencing serious problems in terms of your connectivity.
Yes, Chair.
Yeah, I have since learned that if you are in that kind of a position, can you be able to text so that we can read your views if we can't hear you? I think it's a better option. But can we try you once more? You want to say something, sir? Baba Ketamoban. Okay, let's follow that route. Write to us, we will read your message. Advocate?
Thank you, Chairperson. Chair, going on, our next definition is the manufacturer of blank number plates.
Yes.
So, Chair, this will follow the definition here of a manufacturer, and it's intended to be just above the definition of a manufacturer of number plates. So, Chair, the department differentiates here between a blank number plate and a number plate. In terms of the new proposed definition, they indicate that the manufacturer of blank number plates means any person or an organization who is registered to manufacture blank number plates for purposes of embossing, an allocated license number, or a motor trade number of a motor vehicle. And then Chair, also just because it would be before the next definition, the addition of manufacturer of microdots means any person or an organization registered in terms of Section 5K to manufacture microdots. So Chair, I'm just pointing out here to members, they would see in the notes that I believe it was Sana that made a presentation in the submissions regarding the use of or the need not to use blank number plates. I think there might be a bit more detail in my notes in the reference to their submission because they do link it to some regulations and requirements of number plates. They give the reasons why they would propose a different use there. So Chair, I'm just bringing that to attention of members because if we get to the section, we might discuss it in a bit more detail. If there's the need or feel that one must not refer to blank number plates, but just number plates, then we can relook this definition.
Thank you, Advocate. Honorable Mangcu.
Chair, thank you, Advocate. My recollection also is that on the response from the department, it seems like they might have missed responding to the comments of SANA, which makes it a bit difficult for us. Of course, we can have a view, but it's always nice to know what is their view. We might have missed it, but SANA was not responded to by the department. That is the first issue. And I think it would be fair that we hear what is the department's view about what SANA is saying. Now, it is always difficult for me to accept, but let me make my view, because if you talk about a blank number plate, it is not a number plate until it is embossed, in my view, at least. The only time it qualifies to be a number plate is when it is embossed. So it cannot be a blank number plate because that blank can be used for anything. I can put on my name there and put it in my house at the street and write there, Kwatat, and use the same plate. So I think I tend to agree with the advocate that, one, I think we need to get the department's response. Two, from what I've seen, what Sana was saying, I think also we need to relook at that definition. And maybe unless it causes us trouble, some of these things, we might highlight them so that we move quite swiftly and come back to them unless, especially if they are referred to later on. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Let's hear the department.
Person, may I humbly request Advocate Nel to put up that submission. It could be so that that the inputs by SANA might have unwittingly be omitted. Let's look at that.
The submission of SANA. Can you see it, Advocate?
I can see it. I can see it, Chairperson.
Mm-hmm. Must be thoroughly considered, so they say.
Oh, okay. They are proposing inclusion of the standard, the SANS standards and that they will contribute to the regulation of the number plates and number plate industry in general. Look, yeah, well, we are amenable to that proposal, Chairperson. Thank you. Thanks, Advocate, for that. Because they are enhancing that, and how it works, Chairperson, is if we are to incorporate South African National Bureau of Standards regulations, there is a process that we follow. It will only become law once it's there, but then I like to believe that that standard is part and parcel of our regulations, but then the proposal is welcome, Chairperson. Thank you.
Proposal is welcome. Can we live with that proposal, honorable members?
Yes, Chair.
Who's
Yes,
saying
Chair.
yes? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable Mapena, Honorable Mangcu, Honorable McDonald. Advocate.
Chair, just if the department or members want to make a note, it's going to come up when we discuss clause 11, because that is where they went a little bit into more detail. What I showed on screen was just a short extract of my notes after I went through all the submissions. So, Chair, then the next definition is on the definition of manufacturer of reflective sheeting. Means any person or an organization who is registered to manufacture reflective sheeting for purposes of manufacturing blank number plates. So we will see when we get to those, the reference to the SANS standards that they referred to. I don't know whether the standards prefer reference to normal plates or blank plates. So we will make sure that once we get to clause 11, we have the feedback and clarity there also from the department, and if need be, then obviously the consequential amendments will run throughout the bill. So, Chair, that one's very straightforward. The next definition is going to be after medical practitioner. Just want to get down here. There we go. So these following definitions are going to be here just before minister. Chair, new definitions, medical rescue vehicle. Here we see similar to the fire fighting vehicle that there's reference to a rescue vehicle as well as a response vehicle. So, Chair, medical rescue vehicle means a motor vehicle owned by an emergency medical service as contemplated in the Emergency Medical Services Regulations of 2016 as amended and registered as a medical rescue vehicle in terms of this Act. The medical response vehicle definition means a motor vehicle owned by an emergency medical service as contemplated in the Emergency Medical Services Regulations of 2016 as amended and registered as a medical response vehicle in terms of this Act. Chair, then a microdot. Definition for microdot. The use of microdots has been around for a while, Chair, but it's the first time now that the department's had a chance in bringing the amendment bill to add it to the actual bill. It used to be in the regulations. Most of our new vehicles are, well, all of the new vehicles should be fitted with microdots. So a microdot means a micro particle with a diameter smaller than 1.8 millimeters, which bears a unique optical readable microdot identifier, of which the content and structure complies with the specifications SANS 534-1 and is legible with equipment that magnifies the text 60 times. So, Chair, here we see an example of reference to SANS. As the department indicated, they might possibly just add that there to the number plate definition. Then the microdot fitment center means any person or organization registered in terms of section 5K to fit microdots on vehicles. So, Chair, just checking if there's any hands or if I can continue.
There are probably two hands. Let's hear them, Honorable McDonald and Honorable Mangcu.
Chairperson, thank you very much. Thank you, Advocate Nel. Let me lower my hand first before the Chairperson reminds me. Did we not in the committee agree that the number plate should also be microdotted, and should that definition then not be added there, adding microdots to vehicles and number plates, Chairperson? That's my submission. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Honorable Mangcu.
Chair, thank you very much. One is the definition of a medical rescue vehicle seems to be very narrow, in my view. And I do think that currently, if it is still so, or at some stage, if a doctor, for instance, displays or uses a certain intermittent light or red or whatever, that vehicle would then qualify, for instance, to speed, to go through. And I think that vehicle would have been considered as such. Now, this definition seems to suggest that the vehicle has to be owned by this company and so forth. I'm thinking where it's a doctor or a whatever it is in that space who is not driving this vehicle, wouldn't a vehicle that they are using at the time, as long as it displays a required light, qualify to be an emergency response vehicle? That is my first one. My second one is there were a couple of maybe the slide 11. It would help us to look. I think there was something on slide 11 on the notes, Advocate, that we read what it says as it relates to microdots. That one was on the emergency vehicles, but I think the microdots are slightly a controversial issue. Maybe if we could go back to what was said in slide 11 as proposed here. There was also comments, I think, from AA around the same matter, so that we can just recap ourselves and hear what we're saying and what was the department's response. Those are my two comments, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jambas. Shati. Ndikuveka kuhle. Advocate.
Chair, I'm just flagging slide 11 there as requested by the honourable member. This is again one of those situations where it was pointed out that the definitions in the regulations differ from the proposed definitions in the bill. That's why we had the reference, why I added the reference there in the notes for members, just to give them an indicator.
They are saying that the regulation be amended to refer to department and not the MEC as a province. Provinces will not be involved in the appointment of the microdot manufacturer. And the department says accepted, manufacturer to be approved. But it's not there yet in that format, Advocate. Am I correct? Through you, Chair.
Sorry, Chair. This is. Yes, Chair. The department just indicates here that this is currently what is in the regulation. The regulation does refer to the department. I think in my notes, I indicated that there was a few issues in the submissions where we would get a submission similar to this, where they raised the fact that there's a reference to a MEC and not the department, and it should be corrected. When you actually look at the reading in the bill, it was corrected because some of these comments that we got in the submissions were similar to the submissions that they made to the department prior to tabling the bill. Okay. So when we get to the clause that deals with the manufacturers of microdots, I think it has been corrected as indicated, that the reference would then be to the department and not the MEC in that instance.
Okay.
Chair, if I may then lastly, Chair, on the microdots, the department, there was an issue, I think it's what Honorable McDonald has said about number plates. I think the position of the department, they can correct me, was that it's not in the current bill before us now for the number plates. If I'm correct, maybe they would assist us to say how do they intend to include it when they include the microdots on number plates, if that is correct. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. There's somebody called Portfolio Committee.
It's me, Chair. I'm using the official account from the committee. Don't forget about the questions from Mr. Sitole on the chat line. He wants clarity on the powers of the instructors and the inspectors in terms of the bill. And he further wants to know what the bill proposed about people selling number plates on the streets. Those were the two questions, Chair.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Valerie. You'll continue to assist us. We now know that when we see
who that person is, Chair, you know that. You know that person.
Okay. Advocate, can you assist us? Or let me go back to Advocate Mahatu. You can also take the two questions, Advocate, if you're in a position. Otherwise, Advocate Nel will help us.
Okay. Just as a refresher, Honorable Mangcu, your question was, sorry? That when we, in our inputs, we said that if your recollection is correct, that
if I may, through you, Chair.
Okay, sure.
There was a time where the DG had mentioned the microdots on number plates, but we didn't see it in the legislation as it was, or in the bill when it was presented. And if my recollection is correct, we were then told that it is not as part of this package now. So that was the clarity I was seeking. And if I'm correct, where to with that, if that is the intention of the department?
Okay. Maybe let me start off by that comment permeated some of the inputs that came from members of the public, where reference was made to, I think, a media statement or a release or something, right? And as our response, Chairperson, we said, microdot, a motor vehicle registered for the first time in the Republic or on or after 1 September 2012 shall be fitted with microdots which comply with the requirements of standard specification science 5341, titled Vehicle Security, and hallmarking part of Part 1, right? And then we further said it was intended for new vehicles with effect from 1 September 2012. But it also became important that the requirement of microdotting must also be incorporated in the process of registration and licensing of vehicles, which required subs, VIN, or chassis caps and engine numbers. So that's what we said. And then we further said it then became important that those types of vehicles should, in addition, be microdotted, as well as also be issued with SAPS clearance certificate. Right. And then as part of the submission towards the conclusion, we further said it became clear that there are people who fit non-compliant microdot, and other fitters were doing so in uncontrolled spaces, and there were no checks and balances done on these filters. Hence, it became important that the legislation be enhanced to try to close those loopholes that were in existence. Now, with regard to the second question that was posed, I think it was around people manufacturing number plates on the streets. There are certain standards that apply, Chairperson, because what you see around is you will see a registration number with alpha in terms of, for example, with alphanumerics. That, for example, it should be JB46HL. You find that JB4 they are combined, and then other numbers follow. It's what we are trying to address, Chairperson, because those number plates are not valid and they are not in compliance with our legislation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Will I be correct, Advocate, to say we are still dealing with definitions currently? The question here from Honorable Stoll is that what are the powers of the instructors and inspectors? Do we want to take that and deal with it now? Or can we deal with it later? Advocate Nel?
Those powers, functions, method of appointment, and who does the appointment will come in later clauses where it will be expanded on. And but it is noted there that there was some need to further enhance the clause on the instructor, as indicated by Ms. Swanepoel in her submissions.
Thank you very much. Honorable McDonald.
Apologies, Chairperson. I just coming back to this microdotting on the number plates, Chairperson. We did discuss it in one of the previous meetings, Chairperson, and Honorable Manu is correct that we did discuss it because in one of the presentations that the DG did, and that he said that that microdotting will come to the number plates as well, and that would assist with the cloning of the number plates, Chairperson. So that's why the reason why I'm raising it. So if we are doing the definition now and we add number plates to it, would it be a train smash to put it in now that if we're going to do it in the future? That's just my question, Chairperson. Or is it not contemplated that we will ever microdot number plates? Then we can just leave it. That was sort of my question, Chairperson. Thank you.
Let me ask the question differently. I know that in your notes at Advocate, you dealt with microdots in terms of the number of people. What are the majority saying in terms of the microdots?
Linked to the comment made by the DG in the presentation when the department did the initial presentation to members on the bill. Quite a few comments were received regarding the possibility of adding microdots to number plates. And the majority of the comments were opposed to the addition of microdots to number plates or opposed to a change in number plates. There were some proposals or requests on, since one can fit a microdot to a vehicle, why can one then not just fit the microdot if it is introduced to the number plates that are already in existence? Would it be required to put the money up front and then get a whole new number plate? Because of the comment made in that presentation, the public were not 100% clear on how the microdots will be embedded. Is it something that is actually going to be within the reflective film? Is it something that you just attach to the backside of the number plate or wherever it is placed? It's also important to note that the fitment of the microdots are done in a way, they try not to make sure that everybody knows where it's done. It's normally done at random points on the vehicles, or that's how I understand it, so that people cannot have easy access to remove it as they sometimes do with chassis numbers and engine numbers and VIN numbers and the like. But yes, the majority of the comments we received were opposed to the microdot inclusion. either because of cost issues, new number plate issues, uncertainty on how it will be fitted, and then also some issues on people not having clarity on whether or not a microdot will allow government to track your movements, or what a microdot actually is in its function.
Honorable members, can we agree that we'll try and finalize this matter at a later stage?
Agreed, Chairperson. Thank you very
In the
much.
interest
Yes,
of
Chair.
time. Thank you very much. Advocate, can we move?
Thank you, Chair. Then we move to another new definition, model regulations. Model regulations means the United Nations recommendations on the transport of dangerous goods, model regulations of 2015. Chair, yes, this is something that's normally used for our hazardous good transporters. They have to get permits and permissions, have extra requirements that go with their vehicles when they do transport goods, and that is then just linked for purposes of this to the UN regulations. Chair, then to continue, there is a substitution of the old definition of motor vehicle. A few additions in this definition comes from all the work that the department has done over the years, and strangely enough, in my former life in Gauteng, I was also part of one of the groups that sat on the green transport policy of the department, in consultations with the Gauteng Department of Transport. So the new proposed definition of a motor vehicle seeks to introduce electric vehicles as well as some of our modes of green transport, such as our pedal cycles, which I personally hope to see a few more on the roads. So Chair will see this is the old definition flighted here on the side, so it's not going to read through the old definition. I want to focus on the new one because there is some input that the department has indicated agreement to from Ms. Swanepoel, especially regarding pedal cycles. So Chair, the new definition of motor vehicle means any self-propelled vehicle and includes A, trailer, and B, a vehicle having pedals and an engine or an electric motor as an integral part thereof or attached thereto, and which is designed or adapted to be propelled by means of such pedals, engine or electric motor, or both such pedals, engine or electric motor, but does not include any vehicle propelled by electrical power derived from storage batteries and which is controlled by a pedestrian. 2, any vehicle with a mass not exceeding 230 kg and specially designed and constructed and not merely adapted for the use of any person suffering from some physical defect or disability and use solely by such person. Or 3, a pedal cycle having pedals and an engine or an electrical motor as an integral part thereof with a maximum design speed not exceeding 45 kilometers an hour. Chair, that is the proposed new definition of motor vehicle.
Advocate, I hear you, we hear you, and there is no clarity seeking question or objection on that one. Can we move, Advocate?
Thank you, Chair.
Notice officer by insertion.
Yes, Chairperson. The notice officer is our officials who do all the hard processing work behind the computers and have to struggle with NATAs being online and offline almost just as much as load shedding. So Chair, the NATAS officer is included here, and there is reference throughout the bill where they appear at the driver license testing centers for the various functions they need to do. The NATAS officer means a person who has been appointed and registered in terms of section 3A and 3C respectively. So Chair, the NATAS officer, there will be a few more details regarding that position in the sections when we get to those clauses later on. Chair, then the department also proposes the insertion. Oh, Chair, I see a hand is raised.
Honorable Mangcu.
Chair, it's a very small one. Is it natis or e-natis? Maybe the department can help us. Most of the time we hear e-natis and here we are defining natis. What is the right word? Thank you, Chair.
Advocate Alma Nel.
Chair, I'm old school, so I still refer to it as e-natis, but I'm sure the department can give clarity there, Chair.
Thanks, Chairperson. It's natis.
Why natis? Where's the E gone to?
Sorry,
The same
no,
way where the S on the stair bill went, Chair. It's okay, Chair. That's fine.
Okay. Okay.
It's gone with load shedding, Chairperson.
Advocate by insertion after the definition of PAC, passenger rail agency.
Yes, Chair. We get the insertion here of PRASA. The Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa means the company established in terms of Section 22 of the legal succession to the South African Transport Services Act of 1989. So, Chair, this in essence is often inserted here to make sure that where the bill seeks to address issues in rail reserves or rail crossings and the like, that is also covered there. In some instances, it might mean that for rail collisions, there will also need to be a reference to the rail agency if it's an emergency situation where they may need to come in. But Chair, members also know that PRASA has the subsidiary Autopacks. I don't know if the intention is really to go that broad because those buses are also on our roads. But Chair, I think the department, if there's any questions on the insertion, the department can clarify that.
Chair, thank you. Mine is simple. I read that definition, which I don't have a problem with, as to assist us later on when they talk about putting up of road signs, I think on crossings and so forth. And however, I don't see, it's not only PRASA which operates the rail network. Unless it's only PRASA which owns the whole network, I might be missing issues there. So the question would be, why are we only defining PRASA, not any other rail operator, if I'm correct? Thank you, Chair. But the definition itself, I don't have an issue and it's in session.
Okay. Advocate Mangcu.
Thanks, Chairperson. The submission made by Honorable Mangcu is true and correct. It just relates to those aspects, more so on railway crossing, Chairperson, and without offering to venture an answer on why and why not others, but as we've come to understand it, the bulk of the railway is owned by government, not private institutions. Thank you.
Honorable MacDonald.
Chairperson, thank you very much, Chairperson. In response to the advocate's response from the department and Honorable Manu's response, I am 100% sure, Chairperson, that my submission would be that we needed to include Transnet in that definition, or under the rail definition, because we are definitely, Transnet owns more rail than what PRASA does, and more rail road signs are crossing Transnet's rail than PRASA's rail. So I submit, Chair, through you, that we would be not diligent in our work if we exclude Transnet in that definition, Chairperson. Thank you.
Advocate Mangcu.
Chairperson, I know the submission, but then not that the bill as it is, Chairperson, it's before the portfolio committee, and if the view is that there be that insertion, Chairperson, not that my answer doesn't assist, but it is what it is, and then we can accept that, Chairperson.
Okay. It makes a lot of sense. I think from what the Honorable MacDonald have said, can we get a seconder to that?
Chair, if I can just clarify.
Yes, Advocate.
I've highlighted here, Chair, that Transnet Limited is in the definition of the Principal Act, whereas PRASA was never there.
Oh, okay.
So it
is Q. It's not by insertion now, it's by substitution.
Yes, Chair, line 15.
So this is line 15.
Yes, Chair.
Okay.
Chair, we'll see here in the Principal Act, pedal cycle had a very small, short definition. Again, this is one of the definitions where Ms. Swanepoel made some input and the department indicated agreement to those. So we just need to see whether or not the committee would also agree. But for purposes of just clarifying, this is what is in the bill. The pedal cycle definition changes to any bicycle or tricycle designed for propulsion solely by means of human power, or B, any bicycle or tricycle with operable pedals and an electric motor with a total weight that does not exceed 30 kg, provided that the electric motor may not be capable of propelling the bicycle or tricycle unassisted at a speed not exceeding 25 kilometers an hour.
Let's go ahead, Advocate.
Okay, Chair. Members will see I did indicate the slide there in the notes. In my discussions on pedal cycle, they can just do a cross check there on those proposals, and then I'm sure if the department was happy with that, then the legal advisors will be able to include that in the draft amendments.
Honorable Manu.
I am in agreement that the department agreed, and I think it's perfectly well. My eye got caught by something on the Principal Act there that I wanted to highlight to Advocate Mangcu, not for this discussion, maybe you should consider it in the future, where you are defining prescribed territories or something territories. I see that you still talk about the Kingdom of Swaziland, and that country's name has changed. Maybe you want to look at it in future. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Advocate.
Chairperson, thank you. I don't know whether you're referring to me or Advocate Nel. Sorry.
Advocate Nel, in this case.
Advocate Mangcu. Advocate Mangcu. The department
May I-
advocate.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, Chairperson. In the light of what Honorable Mangcu has said, I think as the portfolio committee, we can take that opportunity to make that correction, albeit that it might not have been part of the inputs. I don't think it will be a train smash. Those are my views, Chairperson. It's just that we are being correct, so to say.
Yeah, well, maybe let's take it that Honorable Mangcu was proposing that we correct that. Honorable Mangcu.
I propose that we change the Kingdom of Swaziland to the latest name, Eswatini. Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Seconded, Chairperson. Seconded.
No, before you second, there is a legal mind that has a problem with this, Ms. Pumelele.
Chairperson, it's not a problem at all. I just need to indicate that we need to check the location of that proposed amendment. If it's gonna be falling on the section that was never part of the amendment bill, there will be an issue of having to request permission of the House to touch into the provisions that are not part of the bill. But that is if the case in terms of the rules of the National Assembly, Chairperson. I just needed to note that, that's all.
I think you are right, and that is a process. We shall need to check if it falls within our boundaries. We have Honorable McDonald having seconded it. Advocate Nel, can we move forward? I think it's line number 25.
Thank you, Chair. I actually just pulled up the notes on the pedal cycle submission. It was actually Department of Transport Western Cape, not Ms. Swanepoel. So, Chair, this is just to show members what they had proposed and then the response received by the department. So it's just, it really looks like there needs to be the speed remains as not exceeding 25 kilometers an hour, but there's the possibility of doing the reference to the 250 watts. But the department does indicate here how they would propose that, Chair. So our legal advisors do have these responses from the department, and they can look at making sure that pedal cycle does fit into those proposals. So, Chair, moving on from the pedal cycle to the provincial inspectorate. The provincial inspectorate is a new insertion. Chair will see later on when we get to the clause discussing the amendment to section 11A. This is an inspectorate that is set up by the relevant MECs. So the definition of a provincial inspectorate means a person or an organization appointed in terms of section 11A. So, Chair, there will be a few more details on how that is done and what they do when we get to that section. Chair, then there is a intended substitution of reserve traffic warden. So I just want to show members what the old definition looked like. Okay, so Chair, here's the old definition. The new definition of a reserve traffic warden means a traffic warden who has been declared a peace officer by the Minister of Justice in terms of Section 334 of the Criminal Procedure Act of 1977 and has been appointed as a reserve traffic warden by the Chief Executive Officer or the MEC, as the case may be, on a temporary basis for a specific period. Chair, then moving on to the definition of
Okay,
see a
maybe
hand.
let's take a hand. Babu Mangcu.
Chair, thank you. I think it's exactly the same as the old one. What's the difference there? Again, advocate, what's the insertion? I was following on the Principal Act as you were reading. Through you, yeah.
This is a substitution. Honorable Mangcu.
Of the definition. So we are.
It removes
a person. Okay,
and it changes it to traffic warden.
Yes. And further down, it removes the officer.
And changes it to a warden because there is a definition for a traffic officer. So it's two separate.
Yes. Now I'm fine, Chair. Thank you so much. I'm clarified.
Thank you very much, honorable member. Let's move. Advocate Alma Nel.
Chair, our next one is a new definition for standard. And this will come after the SABS. So a standard means any code of practice, compulsory, specification, standard or standard method adopted by the South African Bureau of Standards, as defined in Section 1 of the Standards Act of 2008, or adopted by the International Standard Organization. Chair, just I think members would have seen in my notes. I don't know if they want to add to the definition or just note that the SABS did indicate that some of the safety standards or the testing that was done are voluntary by submission. So we do see reference here to compulsory specifications as well as just specification. But there's also compliance by the South African Bureau of Standards to the SANS, which is the ones that we would normally see as compulsory specifications and standards. So, Chair, that's just to refresh our members to link to the discussions in the subcommittee.
Let's move, advocate.
Thank you, Chair. Then we have a few new definitions before we get into the T's. So here between stop and T, we'll have new definitions for supplier of blank number plates, supplier of microdots, and supplier of reflective sheeting. So previously we had the manufacturers, now we look at the suppliers. A supplier of blank number plates means a person, an authority, or an organization registered to supply blank number plates for purposes of embossing an allocated licensed number of a motor vehicle or a motor trade number of a motor vehicle. Then the supplier of microdots means a person, an authority, or an organization registered in terms of Section 5K for the purpose of supplying microdots. Then the supplier of reflective sheeting means a person, an authority, or an organization registered to supply reflective sheeting for blank number plates for purposes of embossing an allocated license number or a motor trade number of a motor vehicle. Chair, then moving on to, I see there's a hand.
Honorable Mangcu.
Chair, thank you. Just if advocate doesn't mind, just keeping it there because normally I want to. For my sake, I think two things to note there. The comments that we had already made about blank number plate or whatever earlier, I'm sure as they are clarified, they will also affect the supplier if there is any change. On that one there, it says at the end, sort of straight with line 45, it says embossing an allocated license number of a motor vehicle or a motor trade number of a motor vehicle. The question, just my mind needs clearance here, or clarity. nothing major. Is a motor trade number issued per vehicle or per business?
Okay.
If I could be assisted there.
Advocate Nel.
Chair, that is one for the department to answer.
We've got an abundance of advocates, Chair, don't worry.
Yeah, no, I thought this one will answer everything, but it's okay. Advocate Makatu.
Thanks. John, can you respond to that?
So saying, are you awake or asleep?
And I'm here, Chairperson. Honorable Mangcu, and thanks, Chairperson. In terms of the motor trade number, what normally happens is that the motor dealers are issued with the sequence of numbers that they normally utilize when they test or when they intended to test motor vehicles. So you'd find that, for instance, you'd have Ford, who's then going to be testing a number of motor vehicles. So the sequence that gets issued to them is that maybe from 1 to 10, and then they then allocate, when they operate these motor vehicles on the public road, they then allocate those numbers to those individual vehicles. So because you can't use one number, motor trade number that has been issued when they do testing motor vehicles. So in principle, the motor trade number gets issued to a manufacturer and with a sequence of numbers from 1 up until 50 or whatever. And when they go and do the testing of motor vehicles, they then allocate those sequence numbers to those individual motor vehicles. Thanks, Chairperson.
And that day, John Mutsadzi. Thank you very much. Honorable Mangcu, I still your hand still up.
I had forgotten to drop it, but then my view is correct that that definition should refer to the manufacturer, not to the vehicle, because as it relates to the issuance of that motor trade number, the allocation is done by those people when they are going to test or whatever. But the issuance thereof, which I think is what we are dealing with, is issued. It's unlike me, that number plate or whatever will be issued to me or my vehicle. But in this instance, it's issued to a business. In this example of Ndate Mutsatsing is the manufacturer. That is my view. If advocate, you could put it up again so that I could see it again, the wording specifically. But I think the answer of Ndate Mutsatsing is exactly what my understanding has always been. Hence, I thought that it would say, or a motor trade number. Okay, let me read it all. Organization registered to supply blank number plates for purposes of embossing an allocated license number of a motor vehicle or a motor trade number of a motor vehicle. No, I think it's fine. I think it's fine. It's maybe it's just English here. My Bantu education is coming. I think let's leave it, Chair. It's fine.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Advocate, let's move.
Thank you, Chairperson. Then on the testing station, just to show members the old definition, right there, the new definition of a testing station means a testing station registered in terms of section 39 to examine and test a motor vehicle. Chair, I just want to indicate here, I know it's not in the bill, but when it comes to the driver license testing centers, where you go for your learners and your drivers and so on, there's new additions in the bill for it to read registered and graded. I know from my experience in working with some of the vehicle testing stations that those testing stations would also have to be registered as well as graded with a specific A, B, or C. So, Chair, I just wanted to point out here that I don't know if it was an oversight or if there's a specific need for them just to refer to registered instead of registered and graded. I think if we are looking at making sure that it's registered and graded for DLTCs, we might just want to, for consistency's sake, ensure that it's done the same for the vehicle testing stations or centers.
Advocate Mangcu.
It's not an omission that we made, Chairperson. We would. Sorry?
You're saying it's not an omission?
It's not.
Okay. What is it?
Look, the proposal here is if I were to take what, okay, if I were to take what Advocate Nel is saying, is that if you were to look at the definition of testing station, it reads as follows. Just a second, I'll get to it. Let's see. It means a testing station registered in terms of Section 39 to examine and test a motor vehicle, right? The proposal made or the submission made by Advocate Nel is that there must be registered and graded. And the input was that would appear to be an omission, and reference was made to her previous experience. And the point I'm making is it's not an omission, but we had it like that, and we would want to keep it like that. Thank you, Chairperson.
Okay, let's hear Honorable Pete May.
Load shedding. Chairperson, what is the difference between the DLTC, specific the training center, and the driving school training center? For instance, can you use a driving school training center as a DLTC?
Okay. Thank you. Can Advocate Mangcu, can we respond to that? Advocate Mangcu, are you still with us?
Sorry, I muted myself. Sorry, Chairperson, and I was talking. The DLTC, which is an acronym for Driving License Testing Center, right? What happens there is there are certain services that are being provided, which includes, amongst others, right? Depending on their grading, there's grade A and B and so forth, right? Now, grade A is one of those A where they almost do everything. And then it cascades down. Now, a driving school ordinarily is where somebody is just taught how to drive or whatever it is. But then in a driving license testing center where you have a services like you can apply for a learners, and they have their own testing center at the backyard where they do all these kind of services, right? Including if you come there to renew your license, you would go to such a place. But then a driving school center, it's just there where somebody gets taught how to drive and you proceed and so forth, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Advocate Alma Nel.
Thank you, Chairperson. Let me just get my screen up. Chair, then we get an insertion of Weybridge facility. And this will come here after verge. It's one of our last definitions that we get. Now, Chairperson, the weighbridge facility, as proposed in the bill, means a facility with a mass measuring apparatus and is registered in terms of Section 5E to determine the tear of a motor vehicle. Chair, that is the last definition we have here. On the notes, I just indicated to members we might get to that when we look at Section 5E. There's specific reference here to a facility. We do have some technology available to us for in-movement vehicle weighing. I know Sunroll is using some of those technologies outside of static weighbridge facilities. I don't see a specific reference here to those in-movement weigh technology or possibly portable weighbridge services or technology that might be available out there. So I just thought that I'd highlight that to members. I don't know if the intention was to make sure that facility would cover all of those types of services with or mobile.
Honorable Mangcu.
Chair, thank you so much. Let me start with the one that advocate is saying now. My view or understanding is that those ones are mainly to screen. I think it's what advocate said, to screen to determine whether they would take it to a properly equipped weighbridge, which I think is being defined here. They would do it, for instance, put it on escape routes where people would escape. They will try and see if they need to redivert them to the main weighbridge where they could be properly weighed and the necessary action taken. But I think they are here to correct me if I'm wrong. So it would be the same as testing a breath of a driver before you decide whether to take him or her for blood test or whatever. So if I'm correct, then my question would be to the department. If I'm correct, are you comfortable with not defining legally so these screening machines that would be used, that are mobile, that can easily be packed, moved to check where the offenders are before you divert them to the real weighbridge, number one. But number two, with your permission, Chair, I would like Advocate Nel to highlight that testing station matter so that later we could look at it in the context of the definition of a DLTC, so that we could look at it. But I wouldn't want us to go back. I think the department has responded fair enough, and I would want maybe us to look at it and compare with the other definition. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Power has just come back where I am. Can we? So, but the weighbridge as it is, I understand it to be the actual physical structure where you can take action. Those ones are screeners, but they are not defined. And if I'm correct, are there no challenges if they are not defined, these things? Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mangcu. Honorable McDonald.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Advocate Nel. Thank you from the department. I also want to add my voice, my chorus to what Honorable Mangcu has raised. And because there is some places in South Africa where they use a portable single axle weigh device, which they just put under the truck's wheel or the vehicle's wheel, and they, according to that, they can determine the weight of the vehicle. Some clever mechanical engineers have designed it. So I'm in agreement with Honorable Mangcu that we must prepare ourselves for these things and then add it in the bill now while we are busy with it, Chairperson. So if we can get some clarity on that, would be great. Thank you, Chairperson.
Advocate Makgatu.
Okay, Chairperson. Okay, those sort of mobile. I mean, when we do our roadblocks and our road traffic law enforcement, there are those mobile trucks which you would find on the side of the road. But then what they normally do would be to test amongst others, the suspension and the braking mechanism of a vehicle to determine its roadworthiness. Okay. With weighbridge facilities, Chairperson, we are addressing issues related to overloading on our roads. And as a result, because of an overloaded truck, there will be that diversion that will happen, that it will go to the nearest grade A testing, roadworthy testing station, where there will be this massive scale to determine whether it has exceeded the test of what it's supposed to be carrying. So the distinction there is the ones that we've seen that are mobile are more on determining the roadworthiness and the braking mechanism, amongst others, the suspension and so forth. Whereas on weighbridge facility, and more so on our national roads, you would see that overloaded vehicles or abnormal vehicles are compelled to have them weighed to check that they are not, they won't be damaging our infrastructure, Chairperson. Thank you.
So this is not by omission, Advocate. There's no omission.
Chairperson, if I may.
Chairperson, I've got no comment.
Honorable McDonald.
Chairperson, as I lower my hand, Chairperson, the device I'm talking that I alluded to, is a weighing device, Chairperson. It is a single actual scale that can determine the weight of a vehicle by only weighing one of the axles that they can use next to the road where there is not weighbridge facilities, Chairperson, through you. So, Chairperson, but it's up to you, Chair. You're chairing, it's not me. So thank you very much.
I think here it is written the definition of the weighbridge facility. I hear what members are saying, but I think in short, we are agreeing that the definition of the weighbridge facility is correct. Advocate Nel.
Chair, if the intention is to specifically only focus on the facility, which would be a static facility, then yes, the definition is correct. The question, I think, is just whether or not there may be a need to also include a definition for portable axle load measurement devices or something of that like.
I think there is an agreement from members for that inclusion. The definition will surely not be the definition of a weighbridge. It will be a definition by other facilities like 1, 2, 3. Advocate, I can see you reluctantly want to go to the next. But we are scheduled up until 9. I think we'll stop at 8:30 and deal with other business of the day. Can we continue, Advocate?
Yes, Chair, not hesitant. I'm just trying not to flag my notes that I'm taking in between on the screen, Chair. So, Chair, the next one is an amendment of Section 3A, capital A. So here, Chair, the Act in 3A looks at the appointment of the various types of officers. And in terms of the bill, we are here adding we are doing some cosmetics here because there's an addition. So there will be instances where some ands are removed and the and is moved to another place and a comma is removed and replaced. 3A will read, no person shall be appointed under subsection 1 as an authorized officer or a NATIS officer unless he or she has been graded and registered in the prescribed manner. Chair, those are the proposals for amendment to section 3A.
Advocate, there is no opposition to those amendments. I am looking at my screen. Members are happy. Can we move?
Yes, Chair. Then moving to 3B. Here we see the addition in this clause for our new definition of a traffic warden or NATIS officer. So again, Chair, just the heading of 3B will also change. So the heading will now be application for registration as inspector of licenses, examiner of vehicles, examiner for driving licenses, traffic officer, traffic warden, or NATIS officer. And then in sub 1, again, we see some removals of or here. And we're getting an and then there's the addition after D of E and F. That will just also include there that any person desiring to be registered as, so that will include a traffic warden or NATIS officer, shall apply in the prescribed manner to the chief executive officer. So, Chair, that is the proposed amendments to 3B.
Advocate, as I'm chairing this meeting, I can tell you now that, the honorable members are happy. Can we continue? I see happiness. Thank you very much.
Chair, then moving to 3C, the registration and grading of officers. There's a proposed substitution here for 3C2A. So, Chair, the new provision will read, an examiner of vehicles, if he or she, or through his or her spouse or partner, has or acquires a direct or indirect financial interest in the manufacturing, selling, rebuilding, repairing, or modifying of motor vehicles. Then, Chair, there's a substitution. We are taking away the colon and adding a semicolon, and we are adding C underneath here to also include our traffic wardens and NATIS officers. So the new C, a new addition will be a traffic officer, traffic warden, or NATIS officer if he or she, or through his or her spouse or partner, has or acquires a direct or indirect financial interest in a road transport services business. So, Chair, this just makes sure that when it comes to disqualifications of these officials, that in the past we see here there was no reference to the spouse or partner. That has now been included based on this amendment, proposed amendment, and then we also get the addition of the new officers, types of officers that we get there, Chair.
Advocate Alma Nel. Members are happy. Can we move to the next?
Chair, 3D sees an amendment of the heading. Again here, Chair, it's to add the traffic
Oh, okay.
warden.
There's a hand by Honorable Ketamabala. I can see he's saying high five. Let's hear whether does he mean any question, Honorable Ketamabala?
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I want to apologize for not coming in because of the load shedding. It's come back now. But there is something that I'm trying to check. If you can flag back the presentation, because the presentation is gone now on my side. Because I was trying to check the A and B, where you talk about spouse and when you talk about where is it now? Can you
The spouse or partner?
Partner, there it says spouse.
That is number C, a traffic officer, traffic warden, or notice officer, if he or she or through his or her spouse or partner has or acquires a direct or indirect financial interest in a road transport services business. What do you want to say this?
I'm trying to check when you talk about spouse and again talk about the partner, which will be the right
He says spouse if you don't have a spouse or partner.
Okay.
Yeah, it does not say spouse and partner. It says spouse or partner.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Boa. Advocate 3D of Act 93 of 1996.
Thank you, Chairperson. Going to 3 capital D. Again, here the change to the heading is just so that we include the new traffic warden that has been created. And then there's a substitution here just before we get A. So the new one here also reads in such a way so that we include the traffic warden. And then paragraph A, this one is also amended. Chair will see here the substitution will then read has obtained an appropriate qualification at a training center approved by the shareholders committee. So instead of diploma, the department is suggesting we refer to qualification. Then the same under 2 here at the bottom, again, there's reference there to diploma, and the department is suggesting that we amend that to read qualification. So, Chair, those are the proposed amendments for 3D.
Honorable Mangcu.
I'm going to change now my approach and not ask questions and recommend or propose where I'm clear. I recommend that we also add the notice officer, as we have done before in most instances. Thank you, Chair.
Any seconder to that?
Seconded, Chairperson.
Seconded. Anybody who has an issue about it? Nothing. None. Advocate, can we move?
Thank you, Chairperson. Okay. Then going to 3E. Chairperson will see here the old heading for 3E was suspension and cancellation of registration of officer. So, Chairperson, the proposed amendments here will be here under 3E1. So the new one will read, the Inspectorate of Driving License Testing Centers or the Inspectorate of Testing Stations, respectively, may for the period that it deems fit and in the manner prescribed suspend or cancel the registration of an examiner for driving licenses or an examiner of vehicles if, and then the conditions come in A, B, C, D. So Chair will see here we get after D, the department is suggesting we add a few more suspensive conditions here. The following is suggested to be added. E, such person has been convicted of an offense listed in Schedule 1 or 2 of the Criminal Procedure Act. If such person holds or acquires a direct or indirect financial interest in a road transport services business, the nature and extent of which may be prescribed by the Minister. G, an examiner of vehicles holds or acquires a direct or indirect financial interest in the manufacturing, selling, rebuilding, repairing, or modifying of motor vehicles, the nature and extent of which may be prescribed by the Minister. Or H, the examiner of driving licenses holds or acquires a direct or indirect financial or other related interest in any driving school or in the training, instruction, or supervision of learner drivers, the nature and extent of which may be prescribed by the Minister. Then, Chair, a proposed substitution for subsection 2. So this little short one over here is going to get some extra length. The new 2, the Chief Executive Officer may, for the period that he or she deems fit and in the manner prescribed, suspend or cancel the registration of a traffic officer or inspector of licenses if A, any of the circumstances referred to in subsection 1A to H exist, or B, the inspector of licenses or traffic officer, as the case may be, holds or acquires a direct or indirect financial or other related interest in any testing station, driving school, or in the training, instruction, or supervision of learner drivers, the nature and extent of which may be prescribed by the Minister. Chair, so those are the proposed additions here to 3E. Members will see here in these additions, there's no reference to a spouse or partner having such financial interests. We might just need to check with the department if the previous clause on those issues would have covered that, or if there's a need to also add that reference in here.
Honorable McDonald, followed by Honorable Mangcu.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Advocate Nel. Chairperson, I just, if Advocate Nel can just flight it again, I've just got there's many mays, and I wonder if those mays shouldn't be shall or must in some of the instances where, especially the Chief Executive Officer may, for the period that he or she deems fit and in the manner prescribed, suspend or cancel the registration of a traffic officer. May means that he can or he doesn't have to. I don't know. As far as I know, in legal terms, may is not such a good word. I think it should be shall or must for the period that he or she deems fit. Because what we are saying here is that if a person is unfit to do that, these are the things that will make him unfit. I'm just, there's a lot of mays there. The minister may, they may. I'm just wondering if the wording is correct. Thank you, Chairperson.
Honorable Mangcu.
There's a lot of mays, meaning umbona mninzi kakhulu apha. Can you put it, screen it there, please, Advocate? I want 3E from the top where it starts, please. Yeah, there we go. It says Section 3E of the Principal Act is hereby amended by the substitution. Following the words preceding paragraph of the following, the Inspectorate of Driving License Testing Centers may, for the period it deems fit, manner prescribed, suspend or cancel registration of those categories of people. I am concerned that the inspectorate has that authority. It is my view that it is the person who appointed them. The inspectorate should rather recommend either to the chief executive officer or whoever other authority. My view, as I said, I wouldn't want to ask questions, is that not the inspectorate, but the person who appointed that person should be the one doing whatever action as recommended by the inspectorate. Thank you, Chair. That's my proposal.
Okay. Let's hear Advocate Mangcu.
Chairperson, may I explain this process this way, Chairperson?
Yes.
The Inspectorate of Driving License testing centers, are officials of the department. How it works, Chairperson, is there are inspections that they would ordinarily do as part of their duties. They visit DLTCs, RAs, and so forth to see whether, in terms of their registration and when they made their application, they undertook to comply with the provisions of our legislation in its entirety. To be more specific, the NRTA and its regulations. So what happens there is, if at all there is something they find undesirable of the person, either being the examiner, as the case may be, the inspectorate will do an inspection report. That inspection report goes to the provincial office. The provincial office will then, having considered it, and this is officials within the department appointed by the MEC, as the case may be. They would then look at that report and issue a notice, what is termed a TS4, saying to the person, please show us written reasons why we should not be suspending you for whatever reason, the contravention that they might have committed or their non-compliance. And then that person, there's the Audi rule, that Audi alteram partem rule, that person would do a submission wherein they say, look, indeed, this is what has happened, but for the following reason or reasons, I did what I did, or one of my employees did what they did, and this is what I did as an employer. And then the province will then consider the submissions made, and then having applied themselves to the issues, either issue what is termed a TS5, which is now the actual suspension or cancellation or whatever it is, right? So it's not the inspectorate as such. The inspectorate simply does a report, and then it goes higher up within the province, and that happens. Thanks, Chairperson. I hope that clarifies that.
The maze of
the use of the word may.
Yeah.
It's more, Chairperson, to say, let me give you an opportunity to make your case, and having determined the facts, or having presented the facts before me, a decision will be made whether one should or shouldn't. That's how I see it, Chairperson. Thank you.
I thought you should clarify this before I give Honorable May an opportunity.
Thank you, Chairperson. That's exactly what happened in Jobertina. They ignored the instructions from the inspectorate, and the manager in Jobertina decided on his own to close the DTLC. Thank you very much.
This manager. Thank you. Ms. Pumele will then come to Honorable Man. Mamus Pumelele.
Thank you, Chairperson. The other may that appears, for an example, the one that is in subsection 2 in regards to the Chief Executive Officer. That one is a may that provides the discretion that is necessary, for an example, where the officer must decide on the period that should fit whatever is the transgression there or what needs to be sorted. So it's a may that does not say it's not compulsory to comply with whatever you are given, but it's the may for the Chief Executive Officer to be able to decide, after considering each and every circumstance, what is suitable in that regard with respect to the period. So there are nuances in respect of how the may appear, not necessarily as the one that makes it a must or a shall. I thought I should just add that, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Ms. Pumelele. Jambas.
We need some Latin classes. Advocate Nel, please, in our training program, organize some. I had advocate going deep there. Chair, I appreciate the response by Advocate Makato, but but that clause says that the inspectorate is the one who's suspending, as the way I read it. So I still am of the same view that the inspectorate should not have that authority. I am in support of the Chief Executive Officer or MEC or whoever the case might be that is responsible for either that DLTC or that VTS. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Ms. Pumelela, I hope you did not forget to lower your hand so that I don't do a mistake of calling you when you don't have anything to say. There you are.
Thank you, Chairperson. It's gone.
Thank you very much. I know.
Stop mentioning my surname over and over. I don't like it.
Yeah. No, I think Honorable Mangcu is actually in agreement with the Advocate Mahatu that this sentence should be corrected. It should not appear as if the inspectors are the ones that are suspending and so forth, because Advocate Mahatu also did say that. So that should just be corrected, and the clarity has been given in terms of the mays. Honorable May, I'm sorry, just to correct that. With that having said, I wish to end here so that we can just deal quickly. We have the ending is on paragraph on line number 55E. Amendment of section 3E. That's where we are ending today. I know Valerie's maybe gone. Valerie?
I'm still here, Chair.
Thank you very much for your commitment. Now, the draft program. Can you quickly take us through the draft program, Valerie?
Chair, do you want me to speak to it, or can I ask Advocate Nel just to put the one that I've sent to members on the screen?
Chair, sorry, Chair. John Mutating is not a man who's normally awake at this time, Chair. Maybe you want to release them if you don't need them any further.
I know you and John Mutotsi are coming from a long way. Honorable Mangcu, you know him better.
Yes, sir.
Advocate Makatu and your team do indicate to the DG that we appreciate that you have been holding forth on his behalf, but we will appreciate that when he is available, he should attend the portfolio committee meetings. Otherwise, you are released.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Chairperson.
Thanks, Chairperson. Noted, Honorable Mangcu.
So, Chairperson, just before no disrespect is intended. So, I take it we'll get seeing that we've not completed the entire process, we'll get a notice or an invitation, right?
Yes, you will. You will. Definitely.
Okay, Chairperson.
Yeah, we do not have any intention of holding our portfolio meetings without you, sir.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Valerie?
Yes, Chair, as I've indicated to you and to the members in the email, it's now confirmed that the parliamentary program for the third term is extended by another 2 weeks to 15th of October. So the term will run from 17 August to 15 October, but there is still a constituency period in the program for 4 weeks from 6 September to 4 October. So, Chair, in terms of the agenda items, the focus for the term is on matters that the committee has to report to the House, which are legislation, the matter of the public protector report, and quarterly expenditure, Chair. So those matters always have to be prioritized because the House has to consider the committee's reports in that regard. So, Chair, from the 17th of August, the economic regulation of transport bill has been slotted in, as well as the consideration of a report on the 2020-21 fourth quarter expenditure of the department. The committee had the meeting last week, so the observations and recommendations have to be finalized for report to the House. And then on the same day, Chair, the committee could consider the draft report from the subcommittee on the public protector report. That report has been circulated to members to read during the constituency break so that that can be considered. Then, Chair, then on the Wednesday, the 18th, there's a agenda item on the National Road Traffic Amendment Bill so that the committee can continue with the process that was followed in this meeting. The reason why the economic regulation of transport bill is not put on that day, Chair, is because we don't know yet what the outcome is going to be of the meeting on the 17th, and it's always advisable to just take a break in case there are matters for the department or for the legal advisors to report back on, so that they have maybe a day to prepare for that, so that they can then continue on the 20th of August, on the Friday. Chair, in terms of process, the ERT bill has been prioritized because it was tabled before the National Transport Traffic Amendment Bill. Chair will notice that the ERT bill is Bill 1 and the NRTA bill is Bill 7. So just in terms of process, and because the ERT bill was tabled first, we are going to try and give more attention to the ERT bill. Of course, if the committee agrees to that, from then into 24th of August, into the 25th of August, the committee will probably continue with that. And then, Chair, on the 25th, we've slotted in the introductory briefing on the Transport Appeal Tribunal bill. Members may recall that that bill, the briefing was originally scheduled for tomorrow, but because of the sitting of the House, it starts at 10 o'clock. we now have to look at another date for the introductory briefing for that bill. And Chair, the reason why it is advised to have it in August is so that the committee can publish this bill over the constituency break period, so that we can already receive the comments as they are coming in. Then, Chair, you'll see the area marked in blue. There is a suggested date for oversight visit on the mulatto issue for the 27th and the 28th of August, subject to political approval. And the reason why I've said subject to political approval is because I thought that oversight visits for that period will not be approved because it's a very short term, and it's confirmed in Mr. Frolick's letter to committee chairpersons that was circulated at 6 o'clock tonight, Chair. In his focus areas letters, he said that oversight visits will not be permitted in the third term. So that will obviously affect the committee's plans to conduct an oversight visit to Mpumalanga on the mulatto rail issue. Chair, on the 31st, there is the deliberations on the ERT bill continues on the Tuesday, followed by the briefing by the department on its 2021-22 first quarter expenditure. Wednesday, the 1st of September, deliberations on the NRT bill and the introductory briefing on the railway safety bill and the motion for desirability on the bill. As with the Transport Tribunal bill, Chair, the plan is to publish these bills for a longer period over the constituency break so that we can receive those comments on that bill. And then the Friday, the 3rd, then the deliberations on the National Road Traffic Amendment Bill will continue. Chair, if everything goes well with the ERT bill, it would have been finalized by then, but we will have to see how that goes. Then there's a constituency period, 6th September to 4 October for 4 weeks. And this is now the new extension in terms of the third term program. Chair, normally the budget review period would have been dealt with in the 4th term, but now the 3rd term has been extended into a period that would have been previously be a 4th term. So the period 5 to 15 October is for committees to finalize the budget review reports. The deadline for the department and entities to submit the annual report is towards the end of September. So it gives very little time for preparation for our researchers and our content advisor to work through the reports and to prepare. But hopefully, Chair, if the department can table the reports as they are ready, then they can continue with the preparation. So Tuesday the 5th, there is normally the briefing with the Auditor General of South Africa on the performance of the Department of Transport and the entities. So the committee will normally start with them, then it's the department, followed by the entities. For the sake of this program, Chair, I've added all the entities, but as I indicated to you earlier, that it will mean the committee will have to meet the whole day from Tuesday to Friday. And the committee will need to indicate whether it is prepared to meet all the entities or just some of them. I just want to give members an indication. Now, when the committee had the briefings on the APPs, it met with 9 entities. There were 3 that the committee did not meet with. That was ATNS, the car, and the ports regulator. And already those were full-day meetings. So if the committee meets with all of the 12 entities, it will have to meet the Tuesday till 6 o'clock, the Wednesday till around 4 o'clock, the Thursday till 4, and on the Friday. And at this stage, we don't know yet, Chair, if there's going to be an amendment to the Parliament program. So if there is going to be a caucus on the Thursday, it might just affect the committee's ability to meet that Thursday morning. But I will keep on checking the program to see what's happening in terms of party caucuses. There's not supposed to be one if the House is not going to sit in that period. Then on the Tuesday the 12th and Wednesday the 13th, then we will go through the same processes previously, where the committee will look at the draft budget review report and finalize observations and recommendation, and then on the Wednesday adopt it. The adoption of the report doesn't take so long, Chair. So I've included a slot to continue with legislation on the Wednesday midday, and then on the Thursday in the morning, obviously also subject to the scheduling of party caucuses into the Friday, after which there will be another constituency period from the 18th of October to the 1st of November. And of course, all the meetings outside of a Tuesday, Chair, will need the approval from House Chair. So we will have to apply for all those extra meetings separately. That's all from my side, Chair.
Except to say this is a living document, Valerie.
Yes, Chair.
Subject to changes. The issue of the determination of entities we want to see can still be determined when we come back. Am I correct?
Yes, Chair. Yes, definitely.
Okay. Honorable members, here is a program, the 10 program, which is a living document. Honorable Mapena.
No, ngithokoze Sihlalo, ngithokoze Thuba. I note that the 27th and the 28th of August, that seemingly there was some sort of a notice which was sent to the parliamentary staff by the House Chairperson responsible for committees, that the oversights will not be permitted in the third quarter. I just wanted to check. So this means that now the oversight falls away. Now, if you can assist Valerie, when can then we logically schedule this oversight? And then also, I take it that there is just a blanket approach in terms of saying that there won't be any oversights that will be permitted as per the notice from Froli. And if possible, Chair, can we also be forwarded the notice from Honorable Frolik in this regard? Because now that means if we can't do within the third term, then it becomes a bit difficult. And I'm not sure if maybe through you, Chairperson, if we can't or you can't on behalf of the committee canvass Honorable Frolik on this issue to ensure that perhaps we come to a conclusion where we can at least find each other. Because I think we have been kicking this issue. We have been shifting the goalposts on this issue for far too long. And initially we were supposed to be there in March. We shifted it, we keep shifting it, and eventually my biggest fear is that it's going to fall by the wayside and that we're going to keep not having fulfilled what needs to be fulfilled. Otherwise, the rest of the program as it stands, there isn't an issue. The only perhaps challenge is on that the week where we have to do the whole day. As you said, Chair, that's a living document. Perhaps when we come back, we can also maybe, I don't know, revisit that. And then on the on the entities that we have to see, I see that, but as you also said that this is a living document, the DLTC as well, if maybe that can also be prioritized, and then we can also perhaps also engage with them as far as this program is concerned. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Honorable Mabena. Any other taker, honorable members?
I Slalo, Skokele Sla. Let's accept it as it is. It is a living document, and I think I endorse it in its current form. I think the biggest risk, though, there is the assumption that there won't be caucuses. I think that is where we are facing a big risk. But as Valerie said, she will confirm it as she hears. But I don't see political parties not holding caucuses on their Thursdays. If it's not the main party caucus, it will be the women's caucus. So I think that is where a lot of time will be reduced there. And maybe at the back of the mind, the Secretariat, while we are gone, might look at what would be possible then, if that eventuality were to happen. Thank you very much, Chair. Otherwise, I think it's okay. I never knew we will push so many bills, but it's okay. Thank you, Chair.
Valerie?
Yes, Chair.
Are we in a position to share the letter from the House Chair?
I will email it to members now, Chair.
Thank you very much. And then this is our last day, Valerie, for this second term?
Yes, Chair, until the 17th of August.
Yeah. Honorable members, we have minutes of the 1st of June, which is very short. I've gone through the minutes myself. I thought it will be great if we deal with these minutes so that we don't have hanging issues as we come back. Can we deal with the minutes quickly, honorable members? Any corrections? If there are no corrections, honorable members, can we adopt the minutes? Any mover?
Chairperson, Honorable McDonald moves.
Honorable McDonald moves. Any seconder?
I second and I third, Chair, Honorable Mangcu.
With that having been said, honorable members, I think I need to say at this point in time, let's forge ahead with the unity that we have been having, go out of our way to try and address issues brought to us by individual honorable members. It has the Honorable May send an email to you, Ms. Karelse?
I've received it, Chair, during the meeting. I haven't had a chance to read it. And also, Chair, while I have you online, are you going to leave the road accident fund claimant matter to August, or what?
I would suggest that you share the letter with other members, and then we'll deal with it when we come back, when everybody had an opportunity to peruse it.
Noted, Chair.
Otherwise, honorable members, thank you very much for your commitment, and where we had really trampled on each other's toes. I think it should not be taken in a bad spirit. Every house do that at some point. Otherwise, we have been doing very well as a committee. I'm sure we'll continue to do that. Do enjoy your constituency period. My number is always available should you want to engage with me on any other matter. Otherwise, long live everybody, long live.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable May.
No coffee invitations during the constituency period, Honorable May.
It's 21 hours.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Chairperson,
Yeah, Bowa.
when are you going to invite us for a coffee?
Hey, I'm so afraid of this coffee, man.
Honorable May, when can I come for my bride?
I think I'm going to make a fire now. No, I'm joking. I'm going to bed now.
Long live the chair, long live.
Recording stop.